Do you guys know that movie producers are now being asked to make the plots of their movies much more basic and easily to digest, because people, when they put on a movie, they just go on their phone, so they're not even paying attention. So in order for the audience to understand what's going on in the movie, the plot needs to be super basic.
I honestly used to love watching movies. Watching movies was one of my favorite things to do. It was one of my favorite ways to kill time. Honestly, it was the reason why I went to film school, because I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be a part of the system, the process. But what happened to modern movies? They might be unwatchable in certain circumstances. The writing is horrible, the acting is terrible, and the directing is almost non-existent. We're going to talk about it in today's video. Modern movies, what the hell is going on? But let's hear what other people have to say about modern films and why they suck.
Do you guys know that movie producers are now being asked to make the plots of their movies much more basic and easily to digest, because people, when they put on a movie, they just go on their phone, so they're not even paying attention. So in order for the audience to understand what's going on in the movie, the plot needs to be super basic. And they're even asking actors to repeat their lines so that whoever's on their phone while watching a movie will understand what's going on. So for the people who are actually watching the movie, it just looks like super dumb. Like, what is this? The plot is super meaningless and basic, and the characters are just saying strange things that are really obvious, and you're kind of just sitting there like, what the heck? I don't know. It's just, anyways, but yeah. I thought it was very interesting.
I heard that that's actually by design. They have to make things like that because people's attention spans are so little now because of things like your smartphone that you can just look at every once in a while, and you're connected to everything all the time. So it makes it even more difficult for a movie to capture your attention. That's why they're made this way. But you could also say the movies suck, and that's why ultimately we go on our phone when we're watching crap on Netflix. Maybe. I don't know. I think both are true a little bit.
There's a serious lack of good in-depth movies nowadays. Like, it's absurd how trash movies have been these past few years. I think this issue mainly strives from directors giving out all the information to the audience instead of letting it up for interpretation. Amazing movies such as Fight Club and even Prisoners, released back in 2013, give you a great plot, but also leave a lot of mystery in the movie. And I think it's what makes a movie truly great. I mean, Fight Club is still talked about to this day. When it released back in 1999, the movie wasn't that popular at all. But as time went on, the movie literally blew up. And it's simply due to the fact that the problems discussed in the movie have perpetually gone worse, which is why it's blown up. I think another extraordinary example is Memento. The description just gives you enough information for you to tune into the movie and try to figure out what the fuck is going on. I honestly think it's one of the best movies ever made. And while in the midst of confusion, you're still enjoying the fuck out of the movie, trying to figure out what's happening. Point being, it's a very engaging experience, which movies now lack. They usually just pump out what the audience is comfortable seeing.
And when I was in high school, I would say from ages 13 to about 18, 19 years old, I think the movie industry was making some of the best films ever, like the Y2K era from like 2000 to about 2007, 2008. So many phenomenal movies came out during that time period. Ultimately, before movies started to get worse and worse, and I think they started to get worse around 2010, but I would argue mid-2010s, definitely 2015 is when movies started to really go to crap. And obviously, there's still great movies here and there. I'm not saying every single film that comes up, but I think the majority, if you were to get an average, the average film coming out nowadays versus the average film coming out in the 2000s or the 90s or the 80s are a lot worse, like way worse now.
Movies suck now, and here are the 3 reasons why. I'm Hutch, I'm a producer, an executive producer, and now I run a community of independent filmmakers supporting each other, networking, just generally being awesome. Reason number 1 is that DVD sales just disappeared and they weren't replaced by an equally valuable product, right? The transition from VHS into DVD was fine. It's the same product, basically. It's the same profit margins. But when we transitioned out of DVDs and we went to Netflix are licensing stuff for a fraction of what people used to make from DVD sales. So it used to be the case that of a box office release, that would be 50% of your take normally, and then 50% would work on the back end through DVDs. Now, this was the saving grace of a lot of cult classics that we love nowadays, because they weren't successful at the cinema, but they were successful when it came to DVDs because word of mouth spread and people were like, oh my God, I need to go and see this film. Secondly, the way that we market shifted in the last 10 years. It's gone very, very heavily focused on social media. And that's great because you can spend smaller amounts of money to market whatever it is you're selling, but it's very expensive. It can often cost 4 times the cost of a product to sell something. And that's fine if you're a subscription company because there'll be multiple repeat purchases on a subscription, or a clothing company because you do lots of different products so people raise their lifetime customer value. But there's no lifetime customer value raising in a single non-scalable product, right? Which is a cinema ticket or a digital download. So that's gone. And that's also meant that big films are pushed into a different type of marketing awareness. Now, that generally only works when you are talking about big scale, $50 million, $100 million. When I say works, I mean the variability is removed. But that means that we're seeing now bigger and bigger budgets on films because those films are the only ones that justify a $100 million marketing budget. And the third reason is because of those first 2 reasons, because it is so difficult to make money from films now. Executives that are picking films are not taking chances, right? They've got kids in private school. They've got a nice house. They don't want to lose their job. They have to pick smart decisions for that company to make their money back. And reckless decisions at this stage are not paying off the way that they could do. And yes, there are some amazing films that we are now not seeing, but those would not be profitable in this situation. So I can totally understand why people are shying away from it. Something needs to change. And I think there's some things coming to market over the next couple of months that will help. And then the next couple of years, there's going to be an independent revolution.
Yeah, that's why ultimately a lot of studios, they won't take chances on independent films anymore, even if the scripts are interesting, because they want to make money. At the end of the day, it's a business. That's why there's so many superhero movies out nowadays, because they're able to put a big budget in there because of the brand IP, the awareness, the marketing for these characters and the films. Make it more profitable than making a lot of independent movies like Before Sunrise, which is a great film from the 90s. You don't see films like that being made anymore, and if they are, they're going straight to Netflix, and they're honestly not that good compared to the films of the 90s and the 2000s. But think about superhero movies in general, because that's the last video we're going to be reacting to. Superhero movies have been horrible over the last 5 or 6 years, especially since the pandemic. Even during the 2010s, you could argue, there was a few good ones, but the majority of them were not that great. And what's funny is movies like Spider-Man 3 were honestly met with so much just anger, and just people hated Spider-Man 3. But if you watch Spider-Man 3 now, compared to the superhero movies being made now, you'd think that it was like a masterpiece. And I'm not joking. Go watch Spider-Man 3 or rewatch it or watch it for the first time if you haven't. Compare it to the crap that's coming out nowadays, and then think to yourself, this movie was considered garbage when it came out. Now it would be considered a decent film because, again, in the 2000s, that era in general for filmmaking, movies were just higher quality. They were better.
Faith in the superhero genre. And I can't lie, these films have played a massive part. Number one, I've got The Flash. For the runtime, for the hideous special effects, for the cameo fest, that was one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever had to put myself through. I don't think I ever watched a DC EU film in the cinema purely because I knew it would have been a waste of my time. And I'm so happy I at least got to watch this film in the comfort of my bed. Number two, I've got The Suicide Squad, and I'm not talking about the first one. I am talking about the second one. Guys, I'm gonna need someone to let me know why that film is so good. Please let me know why that film is so good. It's average at best. Average. I keep seeing people say this is one of the best superhero films in the last couple years. This, that. It's poor. And number three, we've got Quantum Mania. You know, for the big Avenger level threat to be defeated by a bunch of ants. That movie was a mess. And I was also in the midst where the MCU just visually looked awful. Oh my days, the CGI. It's like they stuck a green blanket behind all of the sets and was like, yeah, that's our green screen. Awful, awful film. I promise you I can make about 100 lists.
And he's probably not wrong. You probably could make 100 different lists as to why movies suck and movies that are horrible now that are being produced. But ultimately, there's a lot of reasons for that. Budgets, lack of attention nowadays, and just lazy writing in general. Leave your thoughts about this video down below in the comment section. Also, leave your thoughts about movies nowadays, modern movies. Why do they suck? Leave it down below. I'll see you in the next one.